in just 3 minutes' time, we'll have the next program in the series. Until then, let me tell you a little bit about Autistic Radio. We're a group of people who are getting together to put words out there, words that represent us. We do it through our voices, but we really want to involve other people who don't use their voices. We've set it up so that during our live discussions and also our recordings and interviews to make our podcasts, the text is there in front of everybody, and we involve texters on an equal basis in our conversations. We're also willing to voice texted people. I don't know the politics. I don't know the history. But what I do know is that we would very much value the input of those people who are autistic and share autism with us. If we could have those people putting their thoughts, their words, their intelligence and their idea to our discussions around autism. If there's somebody out there listening to a podcast who feels that they would wish to involve themselves in any way, we will do our utmost to make that possible. It's taken us a long time to get ourselves used to speaking out, writing things down, texting in, and that experience will enable us to make it the easiest transition you can. We find it a positive experience. Having an outlet for our words and also sharing thoughts with other autistic people has become a very big part of my life, and it's becoming a big part of other people's lives as well. Listening, finding us, listening to the people that we invite to speak with us, having a community that way is important for all of us. Usually, organisations that reach out to autistic people and say, bring us your voice, they do so in their own controlled way, with their own very specific needs and requirements. That's not what we're doing here. Everybody who organises Autistic Radio is a neurodiverse person. If you are a neurodiverse person, with or without any formal diagnosis, your words are very welcome here. Well, it's now just a few seconds. I have to sit back, I have to find my comfortable place. I'll be in a conversation with other autistic people and we'll describe how we feel about some things. We'll have a few disagreements, we'll have a few chuckles, and and I'll pass you now over to our next program, Harry. Harry, you're here with our Facebook world in 10 minutes.
Good evening, this is Spectrum Voices Conversation, here every Sunday from 6pm to 7:30pm UK time and 1pm to 2:30pm Eastern Standard Time United States. Good evening, Julian. Good evening, everyone. And it's been another busy week for us through Facebook and obviously otherwise. You know, we're very active. Always many conversations to be had and many things happening in the world to reflect upon. So, what's the updates to give to the broadcast, Julian?
Well, as you know, we've got rather a lot of projects that we're dealing with at the moment. The one that's a little bit of a concern to me is we have agreed to present at Ocalicon, which is a conference in the United States. It's not a place that's hugely full of autistic presenters, though I think there's a percentage of people who organise the event that are autistic, and there is a presence there, but it's a kind of conventional world of autism. And it was Liz's idea that we could try as a group to have a conversation with an autism organisation, a professional organisation, the Autism Network, and invite them to have a panel discussion at a Colicon as a kind of partnership, as a group event. And I don't recall myself being very enthusiastic about doing the work for another Ocalicon, but because Liz said that, I thought we should run with it and go with that. I don't know what actually happened and how things transpired in the end came anywhere near what Liz was expecting. Maybe you could have the floor, Liz.
There's sound issues with Liz, unfortunately.
Oh dear. Okay. If you want to text in anything at any point, Liz. What we've ended up with is in a situation where there were 5 positions, and once 5 positions were taken to present at the conference, automatically the computer would say no to anybody who wanted to add themselves to that presentation. So what happened was that the initial person we expected to go there, Richard, signed up, as did Lindsay from the same organisation. So they're the 2 main people of the Autism Network signed up. We signed up at this end in an order which meant that Liz didn't get signed up, and then when Jim, the extra professional who was wanting to speak at it, he didn't get signed up either.
I asked if I should take my signature off again.
Yeah, and I'm
no one came back to me.
We can absolutely deal with that, but we need to have that discussion. I would say at the moment, from where we are, we don't need to do anything unless we're actually accepted. I have written in to ask to see if we can ensure participation, and I kind of got the impression when we spoke to Jim that he had a way around it. But yes, Maurice, you've said that you will give up your place for Liz if Liz gets excluded in any way.
Well, shouldn't I do that before we find out if she gets excluded, if there's any doubt about this resolvability?
Not really, no, because it says on the thing that you can swap presenters. I'm not sure whether bringing attention to it does us any good, but other people might have a different feeling on it.
Well, if there's no need to make any changes until we actually know if we're going to be accepted or not, and changes possibly can be made when we are accepted, if we are accepted. I don't think we should pressure ourselves or put ourselves on, stress over, this, excluding oneself to include another. Think about that too much just now. Maybe we can have a discussion, I suppose, elsewhere, but I don't think we need to. I wouldn't want anyone to stress over that particular issue.
Well, I suppose the most important thing is that Liz, who started the whole idea, should know that we're amenable to shuffling things around and making sure that if we are accepted, that she gets a position on it.
Sorry to interrupt, but Justin is trying to contact through Skype as if there's some sort of issue with him connecting.
That's not something I'm going to deal with at the moment.
No, I'm just letting you know that's happening.
He's got me
And
both Podburn and that's working.
okay, well, if all that's working, fair enough.
There was a delay, but it is working now, I can see.
Okay, thank you.
God. I've actually had the Podbean screen display in a way that hadn't happened before, where the description of the program keeps rising up in front of everything you need to get into it, but by entering by searching for it instead of the link and rotating my tablet, I've actually got in.
Okay, well, it will still be useful to have an edited version of this program without this conversation in it, put out later to act as a streaming service, so it's still valuable for us to have that. So the whole point about the Ecolicon thing is that there's going to be some flexibility later, but at this point there's no real need for us to change anything. Just let's see if they have a place for us to have a conversation yet. I did say that we're going to be putting out 10 different podcasts, and it will be necessary for Richard to listen to 10 podcasts for him to actually make a meaningful contribution to what I've set out. So it's going to be interesting to see if he wants to do that.
That's fair enough.
We've also started the big deal, haven't we? We've also started the conversation about ABA, or the conversation about behaviourism, or the conversation about behaviour therapies, and it was the first time that we all met as more than just myself, with Andrew Swartfigger. How did you feel that went?
Very well. He's responsive.
The reason I'm asking is, if you recall the conversation, from your having taken part of it in real time, if I made that into a podcast, would it be suitable for publishing?
Well, yes, I think it were themed around consent and what kids themselves want, and adults too.
Yeah, I've had permission from him before. I've sent over the edit before doing it. I'm thinking absolutely only from our point of view.
Yeah, well, that's what the conversation we were in, yes.
Is it appropriate for us to be putting that conversation out, or do we need to have more as a group?
More as a group?
You see what I'm saying? Would it sound very unbalanced if we put it out on its own?
Unbalanced? Oh, but balanced with talking to someone else, I mean. So there's a...
Well, I'm really meaning that it's a controversial subject, and it's an ABA professional.
Yeah.
And, you know, we stand in a situation where people might accuse us of platforming him.
Well, it's always been... Well, that's why we made it. To give discussability.
Yeah, there's a difference between our intention of opening a discussion and whether other people will interpret it as platforming. But what you're saying is you don't see a problem with it.
Well, I didn't. But I see there may be some virtue in having sort of once instead of one, so there's a palette. But I don't know how long that would take. And if I don't sit on something we've made for that reason, if it's a long time.
I can put it alongside the conversation with the autistic behavioural guy, Nathan Bunyan.
Yeah, so we've already got that, yeah.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that edit and I've sent it off to Nathan, but I haven't had the okay from him that his organisation is happy enough to play that yet.
Yeah.
You were there with that as well, weren't you?
Yeah.
If you thought about your experience of the two experiences, would they, as a pair, kind of stop us being accused of unfairly platforming ABA?
Well, nothing will stop us being accused by the most entrenched, but
yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they'll just be they'll be reasonable. Yeah. I mean, we're not saying we agree with coercive treating.
No, of course we don't. No.
My point on it is it's a difficult topic, but it's one that needs to be discussed. And like a lot of things, like the puzzle piece that we've kind of discussed before, it's, even though this is one is more harder, it's going to ruffle feathers no matter how we present it. But presenting it is actually being advantageous to everyone because we bring it into the open to discuss it. One or two people will be uncomfortable. We may get one or two comments, but most people that won't be uncomfortable with it will probably just not listen to it or just just ignore it. So, but as you say, if we put it in the most presentable, balanced way, it's just been suggested, I don't see there being a problem. I was at the one, at the first one, and well, I was unsure about a lot of things that were said, but that was just a personal opinion, not on the topic itself, but just more the way it was discussed. And I think it was because just a busy morning as well. So, but I'm happy with that. What you suggested, Julian.
Okay, so to me it feels like we're lighting the blue touch paper. But there we go. Right, so I will do my best to make a fast job on the edit of our conversation with Andrew Swartfigger so that we can get them both published on the internet at the same time, and then he will be able to, or they will be able to, all of them will be able to start moving that conversation around their groups, networking it out, and it will be those two that and the other one that we did as a response to him. So there'll be three, won't there? The one that we've already sent over to them, we'll publish that online as well, so all three of those go together. And then yes, that will be the launch of the conversation, the big conversation about ABA and autism in the UK. Wow. Okay, coming back to the present, there was something in the mainstream media at the end of Autism Awareness Week, a BBC programme, so it's available on iPlayer, where a group of neurodivergent people acted as a focus group of some kind, asking questions of Martin Sheen, the actor. And I'll share with Harry, so he can put them out on Facebook, some Guardian articles that they might cause discussion amongst us. I mean, there's two different things. We might watch the programme ourselves and see what we thought, and maybe talk about it. But the other thing is we might look at how the media portrayed or reviewed the programme. Are we up for that?
You happy with that? Are you talking about Michael Sheen? The actor?
Sheen, the actor, yeah, the
Yeah.
Welsh actor.
Right, okay. I did see something, but I didn't look into it, so that's fine. Something to discuss.
Yeah, if you're in the UK, it's on iPlayer on in the BBC. Any other business, guys?
No.
Then I'm happy to stay within my 20 minutes and pass over to you, Harry.
Thank you, Julian. Good evening. Spectrum Voices Conversation here every Sunday, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UK time, and 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, United States. Time difference this Sunday, the 7th of April 2024, and this is the Facebook part of the broadcast where we share Facebook posts and have a discussion on the topics. And the first one is from Autism Support Community. who have shared quite a lot and been inspired quite a lot. The discussions from this from Brian, who's a blogger. Late diagnosed autistic, ADHD, 2 sons, writer, blogger, public talks, autism, mental health, and bullying. And what he's discussing, or what he's raising, is about autism and the attitudes towards autism being the flavour of the month, which is a fitting thing to say considering it's Autism Acceptance Month. But reading the text rather than the post, because it's a number of different quotes, I'll read the text first, the supporting text first, just to give an explanation to what he's sharing. And what he says is, there was those who seem to think that autism is the latest trend and that it never existed just a few decades ago. Nothing could be further from the truth or be more damaging to autistic people. Now, after my own late diagnosis, I can clearly identify friends and peers at school who were autistic. Many like me paid a very high price for being autistic, as relentless bullying and exclusion by society was the norm. Now this lost generation are coming forward. Those who were silenced and invisible are finding their voice through late diagnosis and self-identifying. There are many more autistics out there, especially females. The diagnosis process is still failing so many, and for that reason, many people cannot get a diagnosis or face huge delays. The whole process can be traumatic and there is little support out there. Others may choose not to be diagnosed and self-identify as autistic. I was one of them. So when people who are not autistic talk about autism as an epidemic, I shake my head in disbelief and remember the brutality of my childhood and many others, some who did not survive or recover. Brian. Quite heavy hitting that, but it's something that we've discussed before. It relates to a lost generation of people who some are finally feeling they're having their voices heard now and fighting back and making people aware of the struggles of what it was like to feel invisible or ignored. What's your thoughts?
Go back to the 2015 NAS conference in Aberdeen when I intervened to say, talk about the adults who already been through all the childhood things just talking about, and don't just only talk about kids. They all agreed because to a degree they all went home and nothing changed. The lost generation. I mean, it's 20 years of gradually, of all random sorts of ages getting on board. Some of them, and the anger at the ones who don't gets ever realised. Of whom I would be one if I'd done any of the bloody evil psychology and therapy stuff about accepting things and letting go of things. Because I've got the sense to stick with issues even when folks don't want to, because they're fed up with listening to you, that they, as a result, found autism. And how many like me? the lost generations, a lot of them stay lost if the emphasis isn't on catching up for us. Like Lindsay's work catching up with the older as part of plugging one of those gaps.
As somebody that was late diagnosed in their 50s, it's a powerful, it's a punchy piece. And yes, it's important to remind people that it's not that autism's being overdiagnosed, it's being belatedly recognised in the older generation and the younger generation too. So the percentages of people who are diagnosed as autistic go up. But when we complain that what about us, the older generation, what do they set up for us? I was late diagnosed and I wanted to find support after it. I went to an organisation called Number 6. I didn't feel as though that was going to lead me anywhere in the end, even after lockdown. I found it elsewhere in the autistic community. I've just seen a professional group set up a special government funded to the tune of several £1,000s post-diagnosis group, post-diagnosis program, and it's ended up as 6 online lectures with sometimes only 2 people attending. So what is offered to me as a late diagnosed fellow is worthless.
Just going to share the quotes. It kind of links to the text, and obviously what's already been said. That's in the post that was shared. First one is, sometimes I have endured listening to non-autistic people claiming that autism is overdiagnosed and that in their day it was simply not a thing. Yes, indeed, autism is not a thing, but is a life and a unique neurology. The next one says, autistic people were alive in those days. Just that you never noticed the child alone in the canteen or the child being bullied in the playground by their peers. There is no epidemic. Autism is not a disease. Greater awareness and access to diagnosis has led to many adults coming forward and seeking a late diagnosis. Right. Just thought I'd add that as part of the discussion. Kind of supports what's already been said.
I think the other thing is that people of the elderly generation, people older than me generally, the 60s, 70s, 80s, they've internalised this monologue. They've internalised that autism is a appalling disease, so it has nothing to do with them, and that the younger generations after them are deluded in running to the doctor looking for diagnosis for things. That is an attitude that is widespread amongst the generation of the people who are refusing to understand or even try to understand their own autism. There's a denial within the generation that the guy's talking about.
That's very true. It's very true about a lot of things, but in autism, that, strikes true also. It's like you're ridiculed by many in the older generation, not all, but many in the older generation, who say that the way they looked at things is you just survived, no matter what you went through, no matter what pain you endured, no matter what experience you had. You could have a life of hell. You coped. You didn't ask for help. You coped. And if you were ridiculed or lambasted or treated in a certain way, it was like, oh, that's part of life. Life is cruel. You got to bumps and grinds. You fall, you get up again, get on with it, stop complaining. And it's like the generation war, so to speak. It's like many from the older generation are kind of feel insulted that today's generation and the generations recently have been looking for solutions and looking for better lives and looking for answers, basically, which is a different approach. It's not the wrong approach, it's a different approach. And certainly in my head, progressive approach. It's just quite sad that the way it's judged. It's like, I think the big thing is you're just making an excuse because you don't want to work. You don't want to, do your thing for society. Do your not do your duty, but you just don't want to kind of do your bit. You want to make excuses for yourself and feel sorry for yourself. You want to be treated differently from everyone else. It's like that sort of attitude and exclusion. But the thing is, people feel excluded already, and that's why they want to find out, the diagnosis, the identity, self-identity. That's why they go down that path in the first place. And what's good about it in many cases in the end is people do find communities within that, and they do feel included. They don't feel ridiculed. They don't feel judged. And there's so much good in that, and it's just a shame that that's not recognised.
So I want to try to make these communities and not getting them in a service route, and not entirely congenially in our own community either, with the issues in it. Actually, from Justin, good on you, Harry, that's not a disease. And I think acknowledging the bull things that's in the attitudes you've just been describing.
Yeah, I think Justin's saying bullshit to the attitudes. I don't think he's disagreeing with Harry.
I'm pleased that Justin's actually managed to join us. Actually, I was a bit concerned he wasn't able to, so it's great to see you. So good evening, Justin. It's good that you can take part and you can hear us, and that's great. The next post is just sharing the podcast. I was going to say podcast from last week. It's actually from 2 weeks ago. Time's going that fast. It's from the Live Unmask from the 24th of March 2024. The Facebook sharing and discussion from topics. And the contributions from that were from Pete Warmby, the autistic author, Stephen's Living Life on the Spectrum, Lucy's Lights, Autistic Resources for Autistic Activists and Allies, Autistic Qualia, Yale Clark Development Psychologist, and Inverclyde Council, which was Heather Bowman, which was relating to the podcast on Bedroom Boys that's available on our website and on the Facebook page if you want to have a look at that. That we'll discuss as well on this podcast.
this the podcast where I hurt somebody's feelings?
No, that was before. That was. Do you want me to look for it for discuss it?
Yeah, I think we should.
We touch on it.
Address that really.
Yep. I want to make sure I get it right. Just hold on. It has created a discussion. I think that was on the 17th of March, the week before.
Okay.
The St. Patrick's Day one. Hold on. It was from Autism, Parenting and Wellbeing. And they were giving a discussion on their experience with autism and their late diagnosis.
Okay. Well, irrespective of knowing what I said, it's not my intention to hurt people and to say things maliciously. I don't see this as a place suitable for, the sort of things that you see on Twitter. I'm not trying to be provocative. I do get exuberant, but I'm also trying to be authentic and give emotional responses to things. And I know that the way I will express myself at times is going to hurt people inadvertently. It really comes with the territory if you're an autistic man. Different ways of receiving or sending out messages are always open to interpretation. But somebody has written to us and contacted us because they have the reality of being hurt. And I'm sorry for that. I did not mean to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm not going to even look and see what I might have said and push people through that again. I'm just going to say sorry.
The next post is from Spectrum Sloth, who is a personal blog. A late diagnosed autistic, Mama Bear, Ace Cats, Languages, Sparkly Things, Trains, Memes, She, Her. And from Northallerton, United Kingdom. And what she shared is something we've discussed before, but it's amazing how the same thing can come out in a different way and set up a different way and may create different discussion points. It's about children's parties, and I'll read the supporting text and then maybe relate to the actual what was shared itself. About children's parties, I think it's not uncommon for us neurodivergent folk to struggle with children's parties. I myself even remember hanging on shyly to my mother as a child instead of taking part. And my son has always been pretty party phobic. My eldest always loved the idea of parties, but the reality was often very different. We have to put our heads together and come up with some ideas about what could be potentially challenging to a neurodivergent child based on our experiences. The first one we all said was balloons. They're all over the place. Children are hitting each other with them, and they have the potential to go bang at any moment. Even now, being around balloons makes me prickle a little bit. My youngest says, but surely you can't have a party without balloons, even though he hates them. And I think this is something worth thinking about. Would it be the end of the world to not have balloons? Would it be a useful discussion to have with a child? I know you like balloons, but your party would be great without them anyway. And it would mean that we could still be able to, people would still be able to come and enjoy themselves. What a great way to help a child to think inclusively. Would there be alternatives to balloons if children wanted something to throw around? Like soft, squishy balls, pool noodles, foam fingers. Anyway, on top of balloons, there's all the other sensory stuff. Loud music. Does it have to be ear-splittingly loud? Could you maybe just make it a bit quieter? Party food. Cake, jelly, sausage rolls. Maybe a parent or carer could be told in advance what was going to be available so they could bring their own snacks if needed. Lots of hustle and bustle and people banging into each other. Could you have a quiet area sectioned off? And then, not forgetting all of the people. Walking in when a party is already underway. Could you maybe invite them a little early and maybe see if they would like to help set up? Parents sitting around the edge of the room watching. Being expected to eat next to someone you don't know. Then, of course, are the party games. Having to listen to and understand the rules in a busy and noisy environment. Could you speak to the parent carer before the party and fill them in on what games will be played? My chuckle is because I can relate to this. Just continue a little bit. Then, of course, yeah. On the party games, will everyone get a prize? And what if I don't like my prize? Overwhelm. Then the activity's changing quickly. Just enjoying one thing, then suddenly it changes to something else. Could you maybe give a little advance warning before something changes? Honestly, even writing this now and thinking about previous parties is making me feel a little bit tight-chested. Of course, I'm not suggesting that every party should be exclusively tailored around an autistic child's needs. However, imagine the difference it could make to that child if some of the triggers can be moved. If you can, I'd always suggest talking to a parent or carer before a party to see if there's anything that would make things a little easier for the child, as of course everyone is different. And what an amazing way for our younger generations to normalise making accommodations for their neurodivergent peers. If you're reading this, thinking, but why should I? Why should my child have to change our plans for one person? And then these are the exact thoughts we need to be challenging. What do you think? What do you think would be helpful at birthday parties, for instance? Something I certainly can identify with. Not just children's parties, but even social gatherings just now. But this is kind of relating to children's parties, so that must be quite an experience for many children.
I can remember being scared of the balloon sounds and how to learn not to blow them up too far. So accepted them being there. I think, well, why can't you have sort of Christmas decoration balls? And even though it's not Christmas, it just means redefining them to another cultural use.
I'm not sure I agree with what Spectrum Sloth is asking for here. I'm not at a place where I think that one person matters more than a cultural event that marks a special day for another child and their group. I'm not in that place. it seems to me that in that place, the person who has to compromise is the autistic child and the autistic parents. And everything in life is a compromise. I don't think there's an absolute in this. I think it's a lovely thing to make a group of people aware that if they did this, this and this, it would be possible and it would make things easier, and if that child is a special friend, yeah, good. A few of those triggers taken away would be helpful, but the concept that we all need to be accommodated all of the time, I don't think fits society. I don't think neurotypical people should be accommodated all the time. I don't think so-called able-bodied people should be accommodated. And I don't think we should be accommodated all of the time. I think there's a reasonability about it, and this feels culturally unnecessary to mess about with people at children's parties.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, you can't adapt all the time, and you can't compromise all the time, and the compromising sometimes has to come from yourself. Yeah, I can relate to definitely what the post is saying. No, I mean, I hate balloons. Even now, I go there balloons and there's a party. Every party there is balloons. I mean, I think there was even balloons at my own party, at my own 40th surprise 40th. I didn't ask them; they were there. And when there's balloons, and if it's a family occasion, of course, if it's a children's party, there'll be children's playing with a balloon, and children being children, burst things, and sometimes they do it deliberately for the noise. And I just hate them because of that sudden noise that come. Even though quite a lot of the time it's not as bad as you fear. But I do understand what you're saying, though. It's like you must accommodate for one person. But I'm unsure if that's what it's intending to mean. It's more to do with please do not exclude that my child, and think about small small kind of changes. But yeah, I can see what you're saying though. But it's a hard one. That's definitely a hard one. I mean, if someone was taking the child to someone else's kind of birthday party, and if they were being demanding about changing for their child, absolutely, that's not on. Sometimes it'd be better to maybe not attend, but then is that the exclusion thing? But then you're talking about compromises, etc. So, yep, I do get your point, absolutely. It's about, it's not just about one person, it's about being fair to all. And that sometimes can get lost when you're trying to protect, or you've got a particular, you're just trying to do the best thing for your child or someone you know. Yeah, sometimes you do forget that when you're trying to be fair, but then you're not being fair in the overall sense. It's a hard one, but I do get what you're saying.
I think the very
But
important thing that the writer puts in there, right in the centre though, is they address that and they say, of course, they're not suggesting that every party should be exclusively tailored around an autistic child's need. You know, but they do ask people to think towards compromise by saying, however, imagine the difference it could make to that child if some of their triggers are removed. So, the posters themselves are talking about compromise. It's just that tiny little thing about something we should be aiming for that just expands it out that little bit. And I don't want us to feel as though we can change the world to fit us. It's obviously not going to happen, and an awful lot of what we have to do as autistic people is frankly adaptation. And people don't like saying that and don't like talking about that, but that is the reality of our lives. We have to do some adapting.
Well, that's certainly true as well.
When we come into conflict with fitting with other people, and everyone's equally entitled to fit, then we have to look at how mutually adapted we are, and does the thing have one particular way that the majority wants, or does it have several ways that several minorities want, case by case? I mean, just not to transfer that onto the adaptation of places, and where it's not a personal conflict, but that's not what this one is. This is a people thing.
Looking at the picture that was the kind of diagram picture, colourful picture that was shared itself, which kind of narrows it down, kind of bullet points, and narrows it down in a nice way about the things that can be, a potential trigger for neurodivergent children at a party, and I can relate to them. The balloons was first, was the first one that we've kind of discussed a bit. Not having somewhere to decompress, like if somewhere is a bit too much in terms of sensitivity, it's like somewhere to go to sort of recover from that. I can relate to that now. And what I generally did, I don't know if I did this as a child, probably was an adult, but maybe I did as a child as well, is go outside away from the noise, away from the people, take some fresh air, and then sort of take a breather basically, and then return in. I do remember that. The structure, not knowing the structure of what event and what's going to happen, and the sudden surprises. It's like, I suppose that would be a bit of a issue as well. There's many other things there that I'll speak about shortly.
I think it's a wonderful list. I think it's a thoughtful list. And all the things in there are not going to spoil a party. As long as there's a space away from the loud music, and there can be loud music somewhere. Everything there is practical things. You could make it more accommodating if you were having a party and you knew that there are neurodivergent kids, because there are going to be nowadays. So yeah, alternative to things. That's the only thing that concerns me is when they say, if you're reading this thinking, but why should my child have to change our plans for one person, then these are the exact thoughts we need to be challenging. And I'm just not there. I'm just not there. I don't. Maybe I don't understand that correctly as an autistic person. I do feel that there are situations when, if it is a child's birthday, they do get to be prince, princess, or whatever they want to be for that day, and they can insist that everyone wears, I don't know, things made out of leaves if they like. There's something about this demanding these kind of rights over society that I don't quite get. We've just come from a conversation, all of us, when we've been talking about the politics, and you've heard me say, well, maybe we should be demanding this, that, and the other in that direction. But in this direction, it confuses me.
I think it's a loss of sense of mutuality about it. Remembering yours alongside different ones for others.
The other kind of bullet points, just from things that are highlighted. The very loud music can relate to that. They're playing a game where not everyone wins a prize. I suppose you could feel excluded, but I think that's a bit. Activities constantly changing with little or no warning. Can understand that. Yep, sitting at a table with someone you don't know, that can be, still find that myself right now. Not very comfortable. Yeah, and the walking in when the party is already underway, so you're kind of walking into a noise, you're walking into a possibly sensitivity overload, you know, rather than being there a bit early and then it gradually builds up and then you may get used to it. I mean, I do that, I try and do that myself, even now, if I'm going to an event and it's going to get a little bit busier. It's like you prepare yourself, so get that. Party food. Mm, Party food is usually varied, but children do eat all different things and be unsure of the rules of the games. Yeah, possibly. I get all this, and I do understand what's been said by the discussion tonight. It's like the balance, or try to get the balance between making sure someone is included, but then not be too demanding of everything should be adjusted to suit one person and making it not very good for the rest of the people that may be involved. I can see, that can be read like that, and it does read like that a little bit as well. But in the text itself, there is looking at compromises, but also challenging the way that things are set up and thought of just now in terms of inclusion and adapting to neurodivergent children.
There is another thing, though, isn't there? Because children's parties take a very specific cultural experience in our lives because they are the practice for every other party that then follows. They are the practice for school parties, the school disco, uh, the dorm parties when you're at university, the after dinner lunches. They are all learning experiences. Now, it's absolutely true that if you're autistic like myself, you will have been challenged by everything that's on that list. But it it's a necessary learning experience as well. So making it possible to have that learning experience by having only some of the challenges is a great thing. Yeah, so it's easier for you. But overall, the whole concept is that people are going to have to be dealing with inadequate experiences in the rest of their life. So there's always a balance between learning to see how life is and having life made easier for you because it's too much.
The next post, this is something you sent me, Morris, to share. And it's a news article from the Metro, and it's about supermarket giant Morrison's. They're making a big change to its shopping rules. The supermarket currently operates quiet hours between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. on Saturdays, and for the first hour of opening on Sundays. The initiative is for people who may struggle with music and other loud noises, for example, those who have been diagnosed as autistic. Now, Morrison's is extending their quiet hours to include 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. every Monday to Thursday. This announcement coincides with World Autism Acceptance Week, which runs from April the 2nd to April the 8th. I'm just kind of wondering how helpful that is for people. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I'm just kind of wondering, is it really beneficial? Or is it tokenistic? Or am I being unfair here? I'm just thinking out loud.
It looks like the first round of it must have been received pretty well, and there's one adaptation for some people is not imposed all the time, but having been given a slot in one corner is had a good influence in growing its reach by that being what's wanted.
I think it's fantastic, actually. It's one of those no skin off anybody's nose kind of adaptations that makes a lot of people's lives easier. Not just autistic people, but an awful lot of neurodivergent people, an awful lot of people who are using hearing aids. You know, it covers a whole group of people that were probably using that period of time to shop anyway because it was outside the kids' times. It just seems like a good thing to flag up. This is a good time to come, and we've turned the music off. That sounds great.
The next post is from Emergence Divergence, the neurodivergent ramblings of David Gray Hammond, who's an author of books, writer of blogs, advocate, mentor, trainer, and, I like this, professional nuisance. And what he shared, and I like sharing things like this, milestones and kind of inspirational milestones, because a lot of people will be affected by this. And he says that, it was yesterday, today I'm 8 years sober from drug and alcohol addiction. The past 8 years have not been simple. I have had to build a new life. I have spent time in institutions and been diagnosed schizophrenic. Importantly, I was also diagnosed autistic, and that will be 8 years ago next November. I couldn't have imagined that I would get 8 years into sobriety. I thought life was over. Now I'm an author, an independent academic, a mentor, an independent advocate. The most beautiful part of my life now is being a father. And the 3 children in my life have renewed my devotion to leaving the world a little better than I found it. Thank you to you all of you. Your kind words and support of my online work will fulfill me greatly. This celebration of 8 years is just as much as your achievement as it is mine. Without my neurokin, my family and loved ones, I could not have achieved this. Thank you all.
Again, on the previous one for Justin, it's a fantastic idea. Absolutely, Julian.
I think I'm the only person who is an ex-alcoholic here. I've never made a Facebook post about I'm a year sober, I'm a 2 year sober, I'm a 3 year sober, I'm a 4 year sober, etc. I suppose people deal with these things in their own individual way. Maybe it's an inspiration to other people that it's possible to give up drink and drugs. Not my.
When the years were as rocky as it sounded like these years have been for him, something to hold on to. I mean,
I'm sorry, Maurice. I was thinking and not listening. Can you say that again for me?
When the years concerned were as rocky as they've been for him, then it's going something to hold on to other people.
Yeah.
Going through rockiness.
I think you're right. And I think people have different ways of dealing with things and different needs. Let's hope it's a positive message to people who are having trouble with alcohol and drugs. It's if people are out there who are autistic, and we have a higher than average addiction rate amongst autistic people by some studies, it is possible to move away from alcohol if you have an alternative to move towards. So taking away a positive to say that if you really have made a decision that you need to make a change in your life, having somebody like him saying that yes, it's possible, it's a good thing. Yeah, I can see that.
What I like about posts like this, or somewhere that you read something like this, or someone saying it, giving a story, it's inspirational and it gives a lot of people hope. Not just for addiction, but for people going through a hard time with a lot of things, like bereavement, for instance. It's like, or mental health, or, illness. It's like it's providing a kind of hope that things will get better, or things can get better. Going back to the addiction thing, I can remember my dad says that apparently, I think we may have spoke about this as well. We must have spoke about it. Rather than just picking on my dad. The thing about addiction and autism, allegedly, or is it based on research or experience or speaking to people, that people who are autistic can get addicted very easily because of the repetitive of a habit, the repetition of a habit. So, like for instance, having a drink or taking or take something as part of not a ritual, but you know what I mean, like part of routine. In many ways, things like that are done as a method of coping. Sometimes it's like a habit, or even a hobby, for want of a better term. Excuse, if that sounds quite, a brutal term to call it a hobby, but it's like the routine of it, and that's how that can happen to many people. But it can be changed and overcome by new routines and new habits, more positive habits. So that was part of the reason why I shared it as well as obviously it's good for that to celebrate milestones like that. For someone that we've shared a lot of this stuff regarding other topics that we've discussed. The next post is from Autistic Revolution. And Autistic Revolution is a magazine, and it's developed by autistic and otherwise neurodivergent people, or neurodiverse people. And there's announcements. We're super excited to introduce a brand new section. And it's about sexual health and relationships. It's co-guided by Dr. Autumn de Miller, she/Faye, and Dr. Tiff, they/them. We've had the pleasure of showcasing their work within our spring issue, which can be found on the appropriate link available. And they only went and said yes, so they're getting involved. Tiff, aka Spice, this is ADHD AF, human as a trans, non-binary queer activist. Dr. Tiff will grab their cape and shit-kicking boots to take on any aggressor in this world. Afterwards, they will get food and go home and snuggle their cats. The autumn intro. Dr. Autumn de Miller, she/Faye, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Dr. Autumn is a totally sparkly AUDHD human with 20-years experience in the field of sexuality and disability. We thought we'd give you a sneak peek of their vibe. Welcome aboard, awesome humans, Tiff and Autumn. I hope I did that introduction well enough. It did come out with a drum roll kind of text. I thought, no, I won't do that. But anyway, I love their announcements. It's so nice and positive, and it's great to read.
Yeah, and it's a fun thing as well, isn't it? You know, yes. When did you last see autism and sex talked about? It's just not something you see, and so it's a good subject. Good. Let's have it out there.
From the coal face.
Yeah, autism and sex and relationships. It's an interesting one, and it'd be something that'd be certainly interesting, to read about because of the way that because a lot of people who are autistic who have autism, it's like there's many that are described or treated like something that they wouldn't understand. It's like it's too intimate or it's too complicated for people to comprehend, which we know, it's a stereotype. And it's a nonsense stereotype, really. I mean, some people have different experiences, of course, but it's like when you get this autistic stereotype, it's someone who is alone with an obsession, an obsessive hobby, or an obsessive job if it's a wee bit more complimentary. Pardon the black humour, the dark humour. It's good for that to be discussed a bit more and for to be more understanding around that, because as we know, there's people with autism in relationships. Some people, it's like both people, are autistic who are in relationships or marriages and have had children, etc. It's something it'd be nice to read about. Something, life experiences in itself is interesting to read in that sort of area. But you're absolutely right; it's not talked about enough.
Yeah, I think what they're setting up is the possibility of that lovely thing, an older sibling that you can go and speak to. They seem to be with the different sexualities that they're describing. They seem to be people who know a wide range of experience. So it might be nice. You've got people just needing somebody from their own community to to inform them rather than have it come in a different way from somewhere else. So yeah, I hope it develops like that.
The next post I've shared, it's a bit of a weird one. Not weird, it's something I don't usually share. It's usually like text. But it's a picture, but it's very relevant. It's from Molly's ADHD Mayhem. It's a reel, and it's a kind of comical reaction to when someone says, when they look at someone, but you don't look autistic. And it's this kind of an exaggerated sort of response and a sarcastic sort of look, like, really? It really is that. What's that? It's like, what kind of thing to say is that? I mean, you don't look autistic because of that sort of. I mean, we've talked about it before in different topics. It's like, oh, you don't look autistic, and that's meant to be a compliment. So it's just something I thought I'd share. It's kind of humorous, but also very serious at the same time. The next one I'm sharing is from the autistic teacher, who's a public figure, autistic and proud, sharing insight and understanding to help the autistic community. Something that was shared quite regularly as well, like so many that I've shared tonight. And it's talking about sense of the internal body systems for the internal regulation in terms of hyposensitivity and hypersensitivity. The description for hyposensitivity is someone who is under-responsive might not know when they are feeling unwell until they're really unwell. They may not realize they are hot or cold. They may not realize when they are hungry or thirsty. They might experience alexithymia, difficulty identifying emotions. Excuse the pronunciation, if you can correct me and shortly, I'd appreciate it. And hypersensitivity is someone who is hypersensitive, might feel pain more intensely and for longer. They might feel emotions more deeply, and they might have heightened awareness of hunger or thirst. So this is in relation, obviously, linking with autism. I'm just kind of wondering how this relates to people and if I've heard of it. It's not something I've really thought about before. Sensitivity, but never those terms, especially the one that's reverse.
Yeah, you'd need Liz to say the words alexithymia, alexithymia, alexithymia. I would find it easier to say alexithymia, but I have no idea how it's pronounced. I think we're just at both ends of the scale on this. People talk an awful lot about hypersensitivity and autism, but fewer people talk about hyposensitivity, the not being able to feel, not being able to think inside yourself, not. It's a reality that you get both at the same time for different in different circumstances. You know, at the same time of not knowing that you're hot or cold, you might also have hypersensitivity to touch. So it's very much one of those mix match things. You can't say one group of things is an opposite to another. You have hypersensitivity at different times to different things, and it changes. And you have hyposensitivity to different stimulus, and it changes. It's a very big mixture. all people really need to know is that often their experiences are outside the norm on both ends, and that makes it important for them to think intellectually about where they might be. Are they hungry? We have to go through things intellectually to check, because we're never sure whether we are being too sensitive or too insensitive to our environment.
Just checking my sound, testing, because Morris says he lost my sound, so I'm just checking I can be heard.
Perfect for me.
So yes. I got a streaming thing in the middle of that one sentence.
I think you're fine to continue there, Harry.
Okay. The next post is from Jordan James, the autistic photographer, who we share quite regular. Public figure. He has a podcast called the Neurodivergent Experience, and he sells digital images, etc., in his Pickfair store through Amazon and through his own website. And what he shared is quite a strong post. Dear neurotypicals, we are not all in the spectrum. You just wish you were. Saying this diminishes our struggles, which are often caused by neurotypicals. Sounds like sharing an experience and just not lashing out, but giving a quote and sharing.
Well, it does sound a bit of a excluding stuck-up quote, I've got to say, especially when you remember that quite a number of other of our experiences are difficulties are caused by each other, and we're not superior in nature, and social. We're not social nature. Fair nature. I mean, okay. The expression might be wrong, but I find it really nasty to accuse people of wishing things. Some of the people might even be right and just think they're neurotypical at that time and turn out not to be subsequently.
I like the photography. I think we're all on the spectrum. We're all on the spectrum. It's true. We are all on the spectrum. Yes, they are correct when they say, yes, we're all on the spectrum. We are all on the human spectrum. We are all a multicoloured bundle of people, all humanity. And that's what people are trying to say in a cack-handed way when they say we're all on the spectrum. And then it's interpreted by us as we're all on the autistic spectrum and you don't matter, you don't have to be. It's supposed to be, in a lot of people's minds, a nice inclusive thing to say we're all human, we're all different, but hey, you're just one of us.
Yeah.
And I think people need to get.
So it's not necessarily saying you don't matter.
Well, okay, I might be exaggerating a little.
No. You're right that the attitude is that they take it as meaning that's, but I'm pointing out it doesn't.
You're right. It doesn't mean that to us. But who's going to? how can we take advantage of the situation rather than just make ourselves look prickly? And to me, taking advantage of the situation is key. It's, yeah, I suppose we are all a spectrum. If you think about all humans are different, you're right. But there is this thing called autism that is a bit separate, and we do have this and we do have that, and blah blah blah. And it's a teaching moment, We don't do ourselves any advocacy by being hurt and upset. And unfortunately, we do get hurt and upset. That's real. And these words do mean different things to people. I just wonder if sometimes we could give ourselves more permission to take control of the situation ourselves as autistic people, and use the situation to help the whole thing with advocacy.
Yeah, the thing about it is, many autistic people's experiences, you're that used to firefighting in many ways. But sometimes when something is said, which is not in a malicious way, although it may sound patronising, is you firefight that as well. So yeah, sometimes you can be prickly. I mean, being prickly myself. Sometimes you react, without thinking. You react with emotion without taking on board what's actually being said. It's just what you think is being said. So, yeah, I think we need to give ourselves, a wee break sometimes, and the way that some people say things, and what may be said, and what has been said, and what you think is being said. I mean, life is a balance, and autistic life is certainly a balance, but it's still life, and it's just when you're that used to the past, you're that used to kind of standing your ground and not arguing but debating, standing your ground basically. Sometimes you stand your ground, sometimes we don't actually need to. But sometimes people just like to make a point as well of how they're feeling at the time, and sometimes it can sound strong, and more stronger than some people kind of feel isn't, required.
You're absolutely right. And if basically what the guy is saying is fuck off, for fuck's sake, I've heard this for so many fucking times, I've had enough of this fucking shit, and that's what the guy is saying, and he's making it into a multicolored post and making some words and sticking it out on Facebook. So yeah, there's that truth in that too. You're right. We all have to deal with things in our own way, different in what we need at the time, and sometimes I might just say, go fuck yourself.
On that honest and straightforward note, we're just about run out of time, so thanks very much everyone who attended this evening. And thanks for everyone who shared their post that we've shared and discussed. It was a good mixture of topics and discussion. Great variety. So this is Spectrum Voices Conversation, here every Sunday, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UK time, and 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, United States time difference. So thank you again, and I look forward to doing another sharing of the Facebook next time. So good night.
Good night, Harry, mate.